Miami football talk coming your way for the next hour, plus here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, courtesy Cam Underwood from State of the U. Cam, how we doing tonight?
Doing good, feeling strong. Just hanging out. How about yourself?
I'm good, and we just talked to a Florida guy, not a Florida Gators guy, but a guy that resides in the state of Florida. I think you were the only state in the nation, well, California probably, that has not been affected by this deep freeze.
Yeah, one of the few.
Yes.
Yeah, because California is like kind of just normal temperatures. Anywhere north of that, yeah, it's cold. Anything east of there is cold, even into Georgia. So, I mean, there's probably like maybe a little bit in the Panhandle, you know, that south, that East Alabama kind of area. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, down here, like it's 79 degrees with a nice little breeze right now. It was 83 today. Like, ooh. Yeah, it's no, we're doing fine down here. But yeah.
Yeah, even in the far reaches of Texas, down near the border, they got slammed as well. So, all right, let's talk Miami football. The live chat, you guys know what the deal is. If you leave your comments, your questions, debate topics, anything you want Cam and or myself to kick around, we will do so. Travis Williams was only on campus for how long?
16 days.
16 days. All
16
right.
or 17, yeah.
Now he's moving on to UCF. Your thoughts about that?
Yeah, he left for a defensive coordinator's job working for Gus Malzahn, who he'd worked for years, and had a close relationship with. It's reported that Manny Diaz told Travis, he said, look, man, that's a defensive coordinator's job. Like, you got to go take that. That's a great opportunity. UCF is one of the, top tier preeminent group of 5 teams in America. They built themselves up into that and everything. That's a good step. Feels a little bit bamboozly now that they've hired another gentleman to come in as the co-defensive coordinator. So it's kind of like we had here with Bonda, who was the co-defensive coordinator with Blake Baker last year. So that's a little, it feels a little more lateral now with that added component. And that came after the fact. So Travis Williams was hired and announced as the defensive coordinator. And then today they went, and that was a couple of days ago, or yesterday, sorry. And then today they came through, hired the other gentleman, and announced him as the co-defensive coordinator. So that secondary move makes that feel a little bit more lateral for Travis Williams. But, hey, it's the business of coaching. You're going to have great coaches. And if you build a staff of good coaches, other teams are going to want them, whether it's college or pro. And again, you're going for Travis Williams, working for a guy who you had worked for multiple years, and in going back to that close personal and professional relationship, get a step up, a promotion in the transaction there. Hey, for somebody who probably wants to be a head coach down the line, it's a move that makes sense. Like I said, Manny Diaz reportedly told him, "Hey, this is a great opportunity to go take that." So, we wish him well. Really would have loved him to be here. We talked about that after he got hired, the energy and everything, just reworking that defensive staff from last year. And I thought that he was going to be a great fit alongside Jamarcus Van Dyke and Travaris Robinson and Jess Simpson coming back on that side of the ball. But, hey, we're going to look in a different direction for linebackers coach. It could be Pat Key to the question of Guillermo Dale. Or I don't know if that's the Espanol there or the English Guillermo Dale, but Willie Dale, because Guillermo is the Spanish name for William, so that's why they get called Willie, if you didn't know that. It could be Packy as linebackers coach. I'm not a fan of that. As the overall linebackers coach, we do still now have room for another coach there. I don't think this is going to happen. Let me say this again for you. Mark, do I think this is going to happen? The answer is no, I don't.
That's the vibe I'm getting, is that you really don't think it's going to happen.
But
I almost thought you froze for a second. That was really good acting.
I wanted to make that very clear for you. However, Remember last week when we talked about if Ed Reed were going to be on staff, someone would have to shuttle elsewhere. Someone has shuttled elsewhere. So I do not believe that this is something that would happen. But this is the kind of scenario that I spoke about before of somebody having to move out for there to be a spot. There is a spot as in an assistant coaching position at the University of Miami. I believe that we're going to look for somebody to coach linebackers there. But again, that hypothetical that we talked about last week, this is part of that hypothetical situation come alive. And again, I do not believe this is going to happen or that scenario is going to happen. I'm just saying, if it were, this literally what we're living in right now was what I had been talking about before. That is the connection. That's all.
Before you forget, folks, hit the like button. Please hit the like button. Keep in mind also that Cam gives us his time each and every week. Consider the Super Chat contribution there that's available to you. And, of course, leave your comments there in the comments section. Share these videos on social media. I say that's all the time because I just figure if people like the videos, then other people are going to like it as well. So just take the link and send it out there. Nate 561. What player do you think is going to go from a backup role last year to a big impact role this year?
I mean, the easy answer is Jafari Harvey at defensive end. You know, you have both your starting defensive ends leave. I mean, the ones who played. You know, so Quincy Roche dominated Senior Bowl. Looks like he's going to be a top 60, or, 45 to 60, somewhere in there, draft pick. You got first-team All-American Jalen Phillips, who wasn't first-team All-ACC, which is just goddamn asinine, but whatever. And then Gregory Russo, who was a first-team All-American, freshman All-American from 2019 and opted out of last season. So you're going to have three guys in the top 60-ish from defensive end and over the last 2 years who are now going on to the NFL. That means that there's a vacuum of snaps. So you can talk about your Zach McLeod, who's probably going to hopefully move down to defensive end and get some rotation snaps there. You can talk about DeAndre Johnson coming in from Tennessee. You can talk about a lot of other guys, but a guy who's on the roster who was in that rotation is Jafari Harvey. And so I think that it's perfectly set up for him to be stepping into a larger role. So that's just the one, as soon as you see the question, just in terms of snaps on the field and physical profile of this player and the success of guys being the next one up there. Yeah, that is the easy answer for me.
You were the GOAT to some. You are sounding like other people's teacher.
Bro, I did that professionally for 15 years on top of camps and other things. And I mean, I tutored when I was in school. It's like my first time really, really teaching. I taught in 5th grade. I told the teacher we were doing a unit on the brain. I said, go sit down. I'm going to teach this class today.
Whoa, you did this at what age?
5th grade. I went to the Waldorf school. It's a different experiential kind of thing. It's, Eurythmics and beeswax and hippy dippy. It's really weird. Just look into Waldorf education. Just trust me.
I've heard of it, but I'm not that well schooled.
So our teacher had a main lesson book. So we did not have textbooks until 6th or 7th grade because our writing assignments were our copy and we drew the pictures for our textbooks. So everybody had a self-created textbook for every main unit or whatever. And so we had one and I just looked at his main lesson book for the lesson. I was like, bro, go sit down. He was like, okay. And I was like, no. I'm teaching today. Go sit at your desk. But the real time that and that was an interesting lesson, because obviously I was just kind of going off of what he had. I hadn't prepared. But when I was in high school, I tutored somebody in my same math class, and they got a 97 and I got an 85. And I got the most 85 you can get. I had all 85s on every assignment. I had 184 and 186. I was 85, but I could teach to them. So to say that I sound like somebody's teacher, I've been doing this for a lifetime. So, or something along teaching and developing, coaching development, whatever you want to call it. So if I sound like one of those, I was literally an award-winning teacher in multiple spaces. So thanks.
It's a gift.
It is.
It is a gift.
I would like to gift that dog out there a swift kick to the teeth, but hey.
Yeah, I just started hearing him.
Mm-hmm. It happens.
Ivan Hood. So I'm going to take this question a step further if it's very obvious with the the Leonard Taylors of the world and Williams and so forth at safety. So if it's the obvious answer, then you can certainly, but I'll take it a step beyond that. If there's anyone under the radar that you think could really see the field and make an impact as a true freshman.
It's funny because I did another video stream on Tuesday with Paul Scoop on the U, and we kind of talked about this. It needs to come to the point where Miami's playing the best players regardless of classification, i.e., in the words of The Wire, seniority is great as long as unless you ain't senior. You know what I mean? And we'll see, because there's been selected times when Miami has played young guys going back for a long time. Look at Duke Johnson back in 2012. Tracy Howard, also in that 2012 recruiting class. You went to that 2009 class, all those Miami Northwestern guys. You start playing a lot of those guys early. And then other selected guys along the way, your Amon Richardses of the world, guys like that. But there's been a plethora of blue chip talents who have had to bide their time for 2 and 3 years behind guys who, with all due respect, are not necessarily that great at college football. And again, evaluating their performance on the football field does not mean that I hate them. I don't. I wish them all individually well. However, if we're talking about sport, I'm going to evaluate your performance in the guise of sport. And it's curious to me how things work or don't work on getting young guys onto the field. So it should be your Leonard Taylors of the world finding rotation snaps as a freshman. Your James Williams of the world finding at least rotation snaps as a freshman. But you also have Avante Williams coming back from an injury. That's a guy who was the number 2 safety in America last year. He'd be a redshirt freshman, but that's a guy. Obviously, anybody at cornerback, because we need guys there. But it's hard to say just because it's been only a selected couple of guys that Miami has really pushed forward in terms of playing as true freshmen, and especially in major roles. So I'm interested to see how that works. And I know what we're going to hear because mat drills started yesterday. Mat drills that were brought down from Georgia, Mark Rick, they put the mats down, they do the tape, and they do all these calisthenics and plyometrics and things like that, which are great. But then, we're going to get the depth chart for the beginning of spring practice, and it's going to be somebody who's lightly talented and not really going to play major meaningful snaps in the fall. Think, oh, well, they're at the top of the depth chart because, in the classroom and in the study room and in the meeting room and in mat drills and everything. Yeah, that's fine for morale. It's great to say, hey, Bobby, whomever, Joe, Michael, I don't care. You did a really great job in that. And I see that you work really hard. You're a gym rat and everything. But like, I'm trying to win football games or I'm going to get fired. You know what I mean? Like, let's be real about these things. And I would love it if we were just real about it. This is not rocket science or astrophysics. Like, again, there's just some guys on the roster who are lightly talented, who would be a great fit at maybe a smaller program, but they're, either here as a walk-on, preferred walk-on, bottom of the scholarship roster, because if you listed all the scholarship players in a row, who would I want? They're going to be towards the bottom of that. And that's okay because you need program players. You need players to fill out your roster, to have that depth and those special teamers and those guys who are going to work and everything like that. But if you want to win, then you got to really, if you want to win at this level, then sometimes you need to be a little bit more cutthroat. And if you're talking about recruiting over guys because you want to stack these classes, right? So if I have a mildly talented guy in 1 year and I've recruited over him for 2 years, I don't want to hear about that he's a better operator as a junior out there. He's not a good enough athlete. Let me get these young guys in here. And I'm not sure if we're going to see that. And it's been intermittent if we have. So we'll see what happens come the fall. Because the spring, I'm not really worried about that. I just want to see everybody develop and hopefully stay healthy. I want to see what happens in the fall. So that was a short answer long there. But I'm not really sure what true freshmen are just because I think Miami's been a little gun shy more than some other teams who have not necessarily had their freshmen do everything, but put them in a starting role and have them do the things that they're good at, and let them cook with that. That's a thing that Miami's kind of shied away from for whatever reason, and hopefully that changes.
For those program players that do check all those boxes that you just mentioned right out of the gate, I don't know that that's necessarily recognition as much as it is possibly an insult, because they know it's not legitimate. They know it's not going to hold.
I mean, look, it's easy to convince yourself of anything. You know what I mean? It's real easy to be first team, number one on the depth chart. Come spring practice, you come out onto the Green Tree practice field or into the Carroll Sofer IPF, and okay, whatever position, up first. Oh, that's me, coach. Oh, all right, I'm in there. I'm going to do this perfectly. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. Blah, blah, blah. Cool. Rooster, front of the line. Cam, front of the line. Donald Chaney, front of the line. That was good and everything, but we only got a certain amount of time in here, so let's get these reps moving where they, and get them to who they need to get to. But yeah, it can be. I'm sure that some people could convince themselves that it was going to last for them because, I'm working really hard. I've been taking that creatine and I've been on the nutrition and I've been, really studying everything and I've cut down my extraneous steps and everything and I'm really being focused. And then it just didn't.
And that's the reality of life.
Yeah.
That's what that is. C. John is asking about ask Cam why these players have to sit out a year when they leave a school. Coaches can immediately go ahead and leave and coach.
Hey, man.
At this point, are we really seeing that many players who have to sit out the year?
Isaiah Walker Jr. did.
It seems to get waived most of the time now.
No, but it also hasn't. There was the tight end who left from Georgia to Illinois to be closer to his ailing grandfather, and because of the family situation, and his was shut down, but Tate Martell's and Justin Fields' were, and those were. I don't know what the foundation was because I didn't see the paperwork, but it seems to me like that gentleman leaving as a tight end had a more solid case for immediate eligibility a couple years ago than did either of those players, but his was denied and theirs was approved. So, there still are outside of grad transferring, your normal transfers who go from school to school. There's still plenty of them who do have to sit out or just, I want to go somewhere else and choose to sit out just because I would rather sit out and be over here instead of staying in this toxic environment. That does happen, but it's the erroneous thing of the student athlete, the nomenclature. So you have to you have to put those rules in place. And even the gentleman who initially worked for the NCAA who coined the term later on and said, I just found the perfect phrase to make it seem as though they're not employees. Because they are. And they should be getting paid for what they're doing. Miss me with all the educate. Miss me. They're doing work. They should be compensated. Argue with somebody else about anything else because I don't want to hear it and I'm not going to talk about it. But my point is, he said that he was contracted by them to find a way where they would not have to pay these players. But then you can enact all these other things and then talk about, the rules of amateurism and blah, blah, and, all these things from a time gone past. And that's why. So it's unequal. It's an unequal situation. There are inequities in this all over the place, and everybody knows them. I can't explain it other than the fact of this is what the NCAA set up 80 years ago, and every institution is interested in the propagation of self at the expense of the individual. Whether it's a company you work for, whether it's a school where I used to work at, that school still operates every day, and they don't care one iota about Cameron James Underwood. And they ran me off and did what they did at the interest of the preservation of that institution at the expense of the individual. This is the same exact thing. So, I hate to say it, but that's just what it is. And until things change, they're going to stay the same.
Very true. It is business. It is business. Ronan. And Ronan's been on air here more than I have the last couple days. Cam, you would have appreciated Ronan and Hurricane Logan were showing up slamming the Knowles during our Florida State show last night to the tune of donating 5210 and 1052 and all right. Support the vision, hit the like, Appreciate everything you guys do. Keep up the great work. Go Canes. New glasses. Yeah, I broke the glasses a few months ago. I've not replaced the glasses. I do have contacts. It's not like I'm walking around blind all the time, but I often get on these and I just don't feel like putting the contacts in. So I'm blowing up the screen. I did that because that's the
iPad
move you have to make for the trackpad on the laptop here.
Right.
So that's where we are with that. So Ronan, thank you so much. Again, the conversion I believe is 1378. We looked that up at some point. All right. Where are we on all of this? I did have a topic in mind. Let's say there is no college football playoff possibility involved. Okay. You know, it's a season in which, let's say, Miami goes 9-3. They face Clemson in the ACC championship game. They win. So this is a program that I'm sure you expected and everybody else to have won an ACC title at this point. You win the ACC championship this year, regardless of record, what else is going on, lost non-conference games, whatever. ACC champions, how important is that going to be to you?
It's very important, but in the context of the whole. You know what I mean? So that by itself is a great achievement, and one obviously that Miami is still chasing after, however many 16 years in this conference. So I can't say that, something that we have not done since we joined this conference would not be a noteworthy accomplishment. It definitely 100% would be. But the rest of the context matters as well. If, we limp in at 9-3, because hopefully that would mean 2 conference losses, because if that means only 1 conference loss, that means you lost to Appalachian State or Michigan State in the non-conference, in addition to Alabama, and that would not be great. So if that's 6-2, and then you get there, and then you beat Clemson, I mean, because that's a mountain we're still trying to climb after a long time. That would be a great achievement, But again, with losing those 2 games, who did you lose to? How did you lose? If it's only 1 loss in ACC play, then did you lose to Appalachian State or Michigan State? Because we're losing to Alabama. I'm sorry, guys. So you lose to one of those guys, and then you run off a bunch of wins. So I know Manny Diaz will be in the hot seat if we lose to Appalachian State or Michigan State for darn sure. But then you run off a bunch of wins. Okay, it looks pretty good. It feels good because you're 9-3 and won the ACC championship game. But that is not a determining factor by itself for the success or failure of the season. That would be one of the top level bullet points in making the case for your evaluation of the season, however you feel it. But I mean, it would be good, but it would be good, but we would need to talk about the rest of it as well.
I'll even drag it down further. Pitt reached an ACC championship game 2 years ago with 5 losses. Virginia did the next year with 4 losses. So you would not take a large, basically meaning you had a substandard season, but the division was so muddled and awful and marginal. You made it to that game, but then you pulled off the major upset.
It would be fine. I mean, the upset, that would be the big thing. That would be the crowning achievement. And I mean, in the scenario presented, that would be at the top of things that Miami did well this year. Hey, finally got back over that hump, beat Clemson for the first time since 2009, and cool, got it. But you can't talk about that without then talking about the rest of it. Like, you probably lost to this bad team. You probably lost this, or you didn't really bring your A game there. And then, you spotted another mediocre team, 28 points, and ended up losing that game because you weren't able to come back from that early hole. I mean, it's just, there's the other side to that. And like Luke Walker says, 9-3 in the ACC championship game ain't going to happen for Miami. It's probably a tall task for it to happen for Miami because the Tar Heels, even if they're losing 4 and 5 games like they have the last couple of years, they had our number both years with Sam Howell there. You know what I mean? So that's going to be a tough road to hoe for Miami to get there at that kind of status, or with that kind of record, especially if you know, you only lose to Alabama in the non-conference. Again, that means you lose 2 in the conference. Yeah, you know, and
that's good enough usually to win the
but the
Coastal.
ACC Coastal isn't that good, and your crossovers are Florida State, who are terrible, and Wake Forest this year. I want to say, yeah, like that's not.
I'm not saying you should be proud of it, but I'm saying it's possible.
It's very possible, but like it's very possible. But then you have to really look beyond, okay, if you finally get there and you finally win that ACC championship for the first time in the 16 years since we've been in this conference, that is a good achievement. Yes. But then we got to talk about all the other components. Unless you go there with 1 loss, and the only loss that was in the opener to Alabama, or maybe 2 losses where you have 1 loss to Alabama and 1 loss to insert other ACC team here. I don't want to lose to North Carolina again. I'm sick of their shit, man. And they've just found ways to, even when they were bad. I mean, even before Mac Brown, you know, with Butch Davis, and they were, you know, they had a couple of years with, who was the coach before Mac?
Larry Fedora.
They had a couple of years. But even when they weren't like running it up like they did with Marquise Williams, when everybody threw the U down and nobody got a personal foul penalty because you can talk shit to Miami and nobody cares because everybody hates Miami because we were those dudes. And hey, you hate us, that's fine. So we got to find a way to win. But even in the years when they weren't blowing us out and they weren't really, really good, we still found ways to lose that team. You know, I worked at Deerfield Beach High School. I know a couple people whose kids that I worked with played at UNC. I would see them at the game and everything decked out in their Carolina blue. And they're like, oh, yeah, I got to root for my kid and they're going to win. And then they did by like 3 points. I'm sick of that, you know, and we just have to find a way through. But either way, you do have to evaluate what the other rest of the scenario is. And I think that while getting to the ACC championship game and winning, if that were to occur, that would be a great achievement. But there would be the other side of that could not be ignored.
Okay. Did I hear you say that if Michigan State beats Miami, that Manny's on the hot seat?
Absolutely. 100%.
Just by losing that 1 game?
No, because you've already lost 2 games because you're losing to Alabama and losing that team, which is a team that you should beat. Absolutely.
If they go 10-2 and lose to Michigan State, why Michigan State?
Because they're average. They're not.
I know they're average. And
that's not a team that should come down to Miami and win. It's not.
Probably 7 or 8 of the 12 games on the schedule are in that same category.
Right, but if you're looking, all 4 of our non-conference games are up top. So you have Alabama, Appalachian State, our Sisters of the Poor, Wagner or somebody, and then Michigan State. If you go 2-2 through those first 4, yeah, no, we're going to have long, hard conversations. I mean, that's not a situation that he wants to be in, for darn sure. God forbid that we have lightning strike twice for me, because, you know, I was a Michigan fan at the time, or, you know, something along the lines of 2015 Cincinnati, but don't go 0-2 against Alabama and App State to start the year. Don't do that. Don't do that. But if you lose 2 non-conference games this year, with the way this schedule is, with the way with the roster we have, with the guys coming back, the quarterback, and you do that, it's time to have. It's going to be Hurricane Logan, because I know that you're watching. Clip this and save this because bring it back up. If Miami goes and loses 2 non-conference games this year, the temperature is going to be real hot and it's going to be uncomfortable for Manuel Diaz Jr. come that ACC opener. Trust and believe. That week, trust and believe. Lose 2 non-conference games this year and see what happens.
That I'm not disagreeing with. But if they then go undefeated in the ACC and they're sitting at 10-2 at the end of the year.
Yeah, but that's in the result. That's the rest of the story. Sure. But right then at that point, 2-2, having lost to Alabama, who knows how it goes against App State. You blow out the FCS team and then you lose to Michigan State. After those 4 games, that month in, just right there. Oh yeah. It's going to be, that soup is going to be hot.
I get that. And Miami's substantially better, decidedly better. I like to separate those 2 than Michigan State. If everything plays out as expected before this Michigan State game, and Miami's 2-1 and Michigan State is whatever they are, probably 1-2 or 2-1. Mm-hmm. Miami's going to be at home. They're going to be a Fort 15 to 16 point favorite, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose that game, yes, it's going to be a surprise. It's an upset, but it's not going to be like alarms are going off across the country, like people are just stunned.
It'll
It's
be
not that kind of upset.
Alarms don't got to go off around the country. They're going to be going off in Coral Gables, though. If that happens, again, what did Manny Diaz do in the first year? Who do we lose to?
Duke,
FIU,
FAU, Georgia Tech, FIU.
yeah.
Georgia Tech,
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What happened last year? You took a minor step forward, but you got, pretty much your doors blown off by every team that had similar kind of talent. Then you come back and you have a team that has inferior talent again, and we're having that same kind of conversation again. And we're trying to go upwards and, and move forward. And again, you're playing the biggest, baddest bullies on the block in the opener, right? And then you have that as well. Like, it's not that, again, in case you've missed this in the last 5 minutes, this is entirely a hypothetical conversation, a hypothetically, scenario. But if that were to happen at that point, that game would not live in a vacuum. Trust and believe that would be linked back to every single performance and everything and the breadth of what he's done or is doing as head coach. If that were to come to pass, Miami lost 2 non-conference games, including one to Michigan State. That would be, it would not just be that insular Saturday. Okay, we're going to look at this only. I mean, we would look at that and trust and believe the good, the bad, and the ugly is coming every single week. But there would be connections going all over the place. And there would be alarm bells ringing. There would be, meetings. There would be general disrest. It would be, if that were to happen, and again, I don't want it to. I really, honestly, truly do not. But if Miami goes 2-2 through the non-conference, it's going to be a sticky wicket for Manny Diaz.
Miami is not typically taken on difficult non-conference schedules, but this one is pretty well stacked. That's a tough non-conference schedule. Playing the best team in the country, most likely. And Michigan State, you're playing another credible Power 5 team, and then you're playing one of the best Group of 5 teams, a team that wins its conference every year that you're clearly better than, but still it's not like some of the other games that most Power 5 teams play as that third best team out of 4 in the non-conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and it's pretty much what we had this year. UAB was a pretty darn good team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that their App State is similar, in terms of caliber. And again, Miami should win that game and should eventually be able to crock pot that, if not blow it out from the beginning, to win by a sizable margin, which is what happened against UAB in the opener last year. That's not the easiest Group of 5 team you could have picked. There's some you could have really scraped the bottom of the barrel. Your UTEPs, your South Alabamas. You could have really just went, okay, cool, we're gonna bring in somebody who's barely above FCS level and really flex the muscle there. Is a thing that you could have done, but Miami didn't. And again, you're setting that up to say, okay, across the breadth of the season, that we've played a schedule that's not standard. We've upgraded in all of these areas. But you got to win games. Woo! I don't know. I would say, I don't know. They're paying Jim Harbaugh a lot of money in Michigan.
Where are we?
Who would get fired first? I mean, Harbaugh or Manny Diaz. They're paying Jim Harbaugh a lot of money in Michigan. But there's a lot of money at Michigan. Shout out to my Uncle Bill. Luke Walker, get out of here, bro. I'm not even going to entertain that.
I'll have to look for that comment. I didn't see what came down.
It was the last one. He was trolling, and good on you for trolling. But I'm not going to. Next,
the Ward Manuel, the Michigan AD, made the statement when they announced the new contract for Jim Harbaugh, that we still believe this is the guy to win championships.
Well, because you have to, otherwise recruiting's in the tank.
And pretty much said that this is the standard. This is going to be what he's judged on. You could read between the lines. So I don't know if that evaluation is going to come in year 1, or they're going to give him a little bit of time to get to that standard.
We'll see.
All right. Are we looking on time? What do we got here? We got plenty of time.
Yeah.
What are we going to serve up next here, folks? Am I going to have to come up with more hypotheticals here?
I mean,
all
I
right.
can do that all day. Clearly. Whew, oh boy, I almost restarted my browser. That would have been bad.
Who's been the best Miami team in the last decade? Let's go 2010 on.
Jeez. 17. Wasn't perfect, but I would have to say 17 probably. Or 16, where they finally decided to get their act together. It did take that midseason losing streak. But I'm on Richard's freshman year. That's Manny Diaz's first season here. But nah, I mean, it's the only 10-win season we've had in a while. I mean, you could point to some other things that might have been better, like individual, like units or players or whatnot. But overall, it would have to be the 2017 season in that team. I mean, you win those 10 games in a row. You're number 2 in America. You blow out Virginia Tech one Saturday night game day. You come back the next week and had that iconic win against Notre Dame, 41-8, and which was awesome. Should have shut them out, honestly. But, hey, it happens. Trajan Bandy with the interception up the sideline, which was deafening. Like my ears were ringing for 2 days after that, literally. That's how loud that was. But, yeah, I would have to say, I mean, again, while you might say a unit here, position group here, or a player there from another season would have to be 2017. It would just have to be.
Ronan says the 2013 was more talented.
Yeah, you can make that argument. You could. I would have to go back and see the whole roster real quick. But if you look, scroll, click. Thurston Armbrister, Artie Burns, Deion Bush, Jamal Carter as a freshman, Chicolo as a junior, Sante Cleveland, Stacy Coley as a freshman, Dallas Crawford as a sophomore, Philip Dorsett as a junior, Gus Edwards freshman year, Alex Figueroa when he was here before he got kicked out, Eric Flowers as a sophomore, Duke Johnson, I want to say, as a sophomore. Yeah, I mean, Herb Waters. Yeah, Rashawn Scott, Casey Rogers. Casey Rogers wasn't the greatest, but yeah, you could definitely make the argument that the 13 team was more talented on a player-to-player basis. But yeah.
And somebody in the live chat brought up the same variable that I brought up in the past when talking about 2016 and 17 and that's if Brad Kaya would have stuck around and you had capable quarterback play in 17.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, despite the shortcomings at quarterback, still won all those games. Like the defense did what they needed to do. Malik Rozier wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination, but he was good enough to get by. And I mean, we all know that I'm no Malik Rozier apologist. Like I'm not, like we all know that. But the proof of the pudding is he and that team and that offense did enough in a lot of those games to get by. It was maybe one play here, one play there. But if that one play is enough, then it was. So, it would have been interesting because there was a reliance on Malik Rozier as a runner because we had to find ways to augment the offense because he was not a great thrower. So I don't know where or how that would have worked out on a one-to-one level if Kaya had been there, but that's something that I would have been interested in seeing. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the record can't be any better than 10-0, regardless of how much better the quarterback play is. You can't be better than 10-0. Now, some of those narrow
11?
Yeah, exactly. Some of the narrowest, first of all, the narrow escapes would not have been such, and then you got to think that you beat Pitt and you're 11-0. Then Clemson's still better, but then the Orange Bowl's a really good game or a different game.
but maybe that's a 2-touchdown game. You know, you hit that shot play to Jeff Thomas in the first quarter of the ACC championship game, and that would have, again, one play here and one play there. But look, that was second drive of the game. That's 7-0 Miami because he was gone on that play action coming back on it wasn't an over route per se, but it was like a kind of seam splitting post, like just. Yeah, if you're running like verticals, then it was that kind of crosser. So he's from the 2 position and it kind of just went up the middle of the field. But he was wide open. And, you run a smash route on this side, so that takes up the safety. So he's running from here, from the hash mark across, and there's nobody there. Like, you hit that shot, that's 7-0. Not saying that, okay, if Brad Kaya had been here in 2017, then 100% we win that game against Clemson. I just think that maybe it goes differently. And everybody who wants to point back to 2015, number one, Brad Kaya was a sophomore. Number 2, he got knocked out on a 2-man pass rush because we couldn't block anybody, and Shaq Lawson laid boom on him, and he got a concussion. I don't think that game goes 58-0 if Brad Kaya stays. Now, hey, maybe they beat us 52-10, like we beat Florida State this year, because we beat them by 6 touchdowns, in case you forgot. But maybe it's something like that and not 58-0. You know what I mean? And 2017, maybe a little bit. That game is a little bit more competitive throughout as well.
What's the most important position to recruit in this 22 class?
Woo! In this 22 class is going to have to be defensive end, just because there's so many elite ones around. And I know that you can find like big, tall, fast, twitchy ends often, but I mean, the likes of which that are around in this area with, Kenyatta Jackson and Marvin Jones Jr. and Shamar Stewart, and then even if you want to go and extend that to a Dante Anderson and maybe even a couple other guys, there's just some really, really, really elite cream of the crop, top, tip-top blue chip guys at that position. And so, yeah, I mean, that's an important one for us. Secondarily, I would say cornerback, just because there's a dearth of talent on the roster and numbers at that position. So until that's addressed, we still need to find good quality numbers to throw at that problem. And then just continuing to push the ball forward, with offensive line and skill positions as well, because, if that's what's giving us this talent advantage that we have over most teams in America and in our conference as well, with with Clemson being, Clemson, Miami, and North Carolina being the top 3 recruiting teams, keeping it that way would mean, doing what we've been doing well in those areas. But yeah, for me, it's edge rusher just because there's so many elite guys, and then cornerback just because we need them.
I know that recruiting analysis isn't necessarily about getting out to the games on a Friday night. Mm-hmm. So 2-part question here. Do you go out to the games on a Friday night to look at particular players? And number 2,
yeah.
How would you explain your approach to keeping track of everything that you keep track of to get an accurate read on hundreds of players?
I mean, honestly, I don't look at the guys who Miami's not looking at, or who I don't think are Miami caliber guys. The guys who I'm paying attention to, I like to say they pop off the screen. They're guys who, oh, wait, whoa, okay, hold on. Let me look at this guy. When I was at Miramar, we played Monarch in the first round of the playoffs one year. And that was when Sean Burgess-Becker was All-American, and everybody's saying, hey, this is a guy who Miami's after, Miami needs to get. And I remember looking at my roster and saying, I don't know who this number 8 kid is, but this is the guy. And that kid was Calvin Ridley. And I was just like, because he popped off the field, and this is a team that that Miramar blew out and everything. Sean Burgess, and everyone's like, number 2. And I was like, nah, number 8 is that guy. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of these times it's not hard to see. I've told the story before, man. I went to Miami Norland versus Miami Northwestern in 2012. That was Duke Johnson's senior year. And he did some nasty stuff. Nasty stuff on the field. And we were sitting on the side by the Northwestern band because my friend knew their band director. and I happened to be a little bit too chipper about Duke Johnson from Norland doing something amazing on the field, and a young or a woman in her 60s or 70s from the neighborhood turned around to me, said, "Young man, that's going to be quite enough for that." I said, "Okay." And I said nothing else the rest of the day. And I mean, she said it just that quiet, but I could tell that the whole stands on that side of Travis Powell heard her tell me, "That's going to be enough of you cheering for them." And turned right back. I said, "Okay." But it was because Duke Johnson scored 5 touchdowns that game. He had a punt return, kickoff return, 2 rushing touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown, I want to say, against Miami Northwestern. And he made this jump cut coming back this other way. That was, because I was not really paying attention to my surroundings. So, oh! I mean, because it was that kind of a thing. And but those players are the ones that it's not hard to see these guys. All these guys that the names are being put in the chat of guys that, everybody watching wants Miami to recruit. Your Wesley the Saints, your Earl Little Juniors, your Zach Rice, this gigantic offensive lineman who is a 5-star, who Zach Walker or Luke Walker wants to go to Carolina and everything. It's not hard to see that those guys are different. You know what I mean? But it's really just looking and seeing how they move and like what they're, are they doing things that are skills, or are they just like out athleting guys? You know what I mean? And you can see that it's easier to see during basketball, because you can tell who has skills, because skills are things, okay, like I got handles, I got this, da, 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 da. You can also just tell somebody who's, look, I play football, I run track, I high jump, I'm running down this lane, throw the ball up there, I'm going to jump out of the gym and I'm going to dunk it. You're not going to see me out here ISO. I'm not going to in and out crossover to a sham god. No. I'm not going to do any of those. I'm running. I might catch the ball and shoot it. I might catch the ball, pump fake, dribble it once, and then jump 18 feet in the air. You know what I mean? But that's really it. I mean, what I do, I didn't last year just because COVID, and I was not trying to do that or anything. But no, I do try to get out to games on Fridays. People see me all the time, whether it's at a St. Thomas, whether it's at Travis Powell. I do try to get down there for a lot of those games. You got your Miami Central, Northwestern, and Carroll City, and Norland, and plenty others use that as their home field because there's no on-campus stadiums in Dade County. So you go down to the Mecca on a Thursday or Friday night for a big game, and then, a lot of these games are being streamed as well and everything. But, yeah, it's really just already going in with an eye for who you're going to look for, because you already know these names. So you start there and then you go out, so you watch who they're going against and things like that. And then just in the course of the play, this kid was just faster than everybody, or this guy's, or, so it's really looking at that and then kind of digging from there.
Hurricane 205. Oh, I was going to make the comment as soon as you were talking about the basketball analogy. It was always, and I don't watch basketball anymore, not because I hate the sport or anything, but I'm just too wrapped up in this. But I used to watch a ton of college basketball, and it's always fascinating to see the matchup of the team that is structured, works well together, veteran team, knows what it can do, again, knows the game and knows how to play the game versus just a bunch of superior athletes, but that aren't the best shooters, those kind of football players that play basketball. Yeah. And just to see that matchup is always an intriguing one.
Yeah, definitely.
Hurricane 205. What's your thoughts on the offensive line?
Offensive line needs to continue to get better. That's just a point of fact. But having a lot of guys returning is a benefit towards that. And also recruiting blue chip talent on top of what's in the room is hopefully going to help that down the line. Again, you're not going to get, the guys like a Zach Rice, like a Julian Armella, who went to St. Thomas and transferred to Gulliver for like a week. And then he's at Columbus now, first team All-State, first team All-American as a junior. Those are the few and far between who are going to come in as true freshmen in college and then play. Alex Leatherwood, who chose Alabama over Miami. He's a guy who came in and played right away. There's few of those. offensive line is usually going to be a 3-year position. So as a redshirt sophomore or true junior, that's really when guys are going to take major steps forward. So yeah, we do get some blue chip seeds, but we need to plant them and water them and grow, have all that happen so those trees can grow down the line. But still, adding those guys to the group is only going to help that development. So in terms of what's in the room, things are getting better. And in terms of recruiting, I think that the group that we got this class was good, not great. I would have loved another offensive lineman in this class, especially another blue chipper. That would have really, if we had another blue chip tackle in this 2021 recruiting class, that would have really raised the ceiling on, or just improved the standing for that position group in this class. Although, the 3 that we did get are very good. The haul could have been better by adding that blue chip tackle or another blue chip tackle on top of Michael McLaughlin. But yeah, it just, again, needs to continue to get better, just like, every position on the team. I don't think there's any position on the team that we should feel 100% settled, even with Lou Headley, who has the career record in college for net punting after 2 seasons. Net punting average, I want to say, which is wonderful, So, hopefully he continues to get better, but the offensive line does need to as well.
And to continue on that thought, Bergie is asking about a follow-up on Navon Donaldson, his status, and his working his way back.
Yeah, I believe, he had the knee injury, which precluded him from playing most of last season. He has been doing his rehab for that. I believe he's been in some of that has been with Feely in the weight room as well. So, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty confident that he's lost some weight. But it's still an ongoing journey. It's not today, of like peak physical shape or game readiness or anything. But we'll continue again to have 198 days between now and Alabama on September the 4th. So I just continue to work on that.
The Rod Farva has posted Miami's defensive ranks since 2016. I don't think this is an end-all, be-all to, okay, the best defense in the country is the best rank and down the line, but it's certainly a huge indicator to defensive performance. And there were some bad offenses, particularly in 17 and 18, that contributed to the defense being put in a bad position. They were 67th in total defense this past season. Miami? That's what the Rod Farva's showing us here. 67th.
In terms of yards per game, yeah, 408.4. That's 67th.
So, of course, the North Carolina game took its hit on that number. I got to think NC State racked up some yardage.
There were a lot. Louisville had 516. We won by 2 tutties, but, they did some numbers. Clemson had 550. NC State only had 410. Oklahoma State had 418, but then you had that almost 800 yards, 778 total performance there. So, you got 1, 2, 3 games over 500 and another 2 games over 410. And then you settle right there at 408 yards per game, 408.4, whatever it was that I said. So, yeah, that's in terms of yards per game. Yeah, that's not great, Bob.
And I'm going to scurry after this and go look up to see who was first team all ACC at defensive end.
It was both guys from darn Pittsburgh.
Oh, the 2 Pitt guys.
But come on. Look, one of them, fine, but because, one of them was first team All-American too. So I'm fine with that. But then Jalen Phillips is first team All-American, but you're going to take, come on, bro. It just, this anti-Miami ACC media thing, you find ways to discount what guys do or have done, even in a singular kind of a sense, it's infuriating. Come on, you got the best defensive end in America, first team All-American, almost consensus, and then not even first team All-ACC.
Well, yeah, that's a huge disconnect. There's a misevaluation there somewhere, obviously, because if he's the best among 5 Power 5 conferences and everybody else playing football.
That's what I'm saying. Haters.
Woo! All right, Cam. We appreciate it, man. Always a good time. Hopefully we can do it again next week.
Yeah, I'm gonna get out of here, and I don't know if I have some reality TV to watch or something, or I'll figure something out.
I got some food to eat.
Yeah, no, I gotta make some dinner as well, But yeah, it's always good to hang out with you guys. You already know all the stuff. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at the State of the U, stateoftheu.com. Underwood Sports, where I tweet about video games and reality TV and all kinds of other stuff. And we'll catch you when we catch you.
You guys know I'm here all the time. We will see you soon.